Sills! Listen here, man. I'm not one of these dudes that like to sit here and tell you I was right. But you had no chance to win that game Sunday. I just didn't think you'd get killed. You had no shot to win that football game. And it was evident for about 52 minutes. I couldn't believe that you got killed. I think you're on the cusp of a 2-game losing streak. And I'll explain here in a minute. They destroyed you. And I'll ask a question to your cheerleader coach. Let me put this out there to your cheerleader coach. Why in the world, with 5 minutes and 19 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and you're down 42-19, after the guy goes into the blue tent and then he goes into the locker room, do you have Jalen Hurts out there in a football game? You were getting killed. Why are you playing him when you've got Dallas in 6 days? What was that? I mean, shit, the only person that actually wanted to do any hitting out there was Big Dom. And by the way, well, for the record, you can't put your hands on a player. You're not on the side. Now, I get why the referee threw Greenlaw out, because they probably thought he was a coach. And they didn't know that he was the head of security. You can't put your hands on a player. You're not there to protect the Eagle guys in the game. Your head of security, dude. It would not shock me if they keep him and restrict him from being on the sidelines. They did that to a photographer a couple months ago. Restricted access. Can't put your hands on a player. Plain and simple. You're not there for that guy. That's not what your job is. Hey, did I like the guy's whole deal? Yeah, I like the guys. The legend of Big Dom. I like it. I got it. I'm good. But you can't have that. You can't have people on the sidelines putting their hands on players. It just, that player, Greenlaw had every right to punch him in the face. Don't touch me, guy. That's not your responsibility. I'm surprised he didn't get punched in the face. He would have been in the right. He would have been in the right. By the way, the Greenlaw body slam, it's not a dirty play. Okay? However, when you slam him out of bounds like that, that's a dirty play. Grabbed him in bounds and slammed him out, guy, got to let him go. Can't be doing that. It's a 15-yard penalty. Okay? Completely destroyed. You still think you're 10-2 team, you're the best team in the league? What's that get you now? What's that 10-2 team get you now with that record? Nothing. After being annihilated. Nothing. I'm going to give you my takeaways, as we always do here on a Football Monday. This is not a championship football defense. You do not have a championship football defense. Why was Swift running crossing routes with 250 in the fourth? Asinine coaching. Just absolutely. By the way, let me walk back on something I addressed with you, and I told you that it would come back to haunt you. Your love affair with your linebacker, Nakobe Dean, jaded the entire defense because all of you thought, because he was a molecular engineer or should have been a guy who worked for SpaceX and Elon Musk, that he was going to be so smart and that Howie outsmarted everybody. your linebacker position is by far the worst in the league. And for them to count on him was a joke. And I explicitly told you that that would come back to haunt you. And it surely did. Big Dom hasn't seen. Hey, shooter, all good. I like the guy, actually. No heart. Reddick was the only one to back his mouth up. The coaches were Bush League. The Eagles acted like this was just another day. Taking Ganell is fine, but you showed up like you don't even give a shit. Warrior, missed tackles is fatigue. I told you this team was too tired. Had gone through a ton of reps. When you didn't get 14 points in the first 2 drives and you settled for 6, it was over. It was completely over after that. The game was not competitive. After the first 8-19 was played, and the Eagles looked like they were doing a great job pressuring the quarterback, I thought Brock Purdy was rattled. I thought he was rattled. But when you guys didn't come away with 14 points and you only came away with 6, it was over. It was over. Your cornerbacks, James Trashberry and Paper Mache Slay, were awful. They were awful in the ball game. They were just absolutely terrible. By the way, once they figured out the linebacking core couldn't cover George Kittle, you had no answers for him, as I said you wouldn't. You had no answers for the guy. And you had no answers for McCaffrey. Last 3 weeks, 174 yards rushing versus your defense. 168 and then 146. You have a really good run defense? Where? Is it in hibernation now? I know what happened, Sills. Every Eagle besides Lane got an email stating that this was just a joint practice, not a game. JH, Lane Johnson was spectacular. Nick Bosa was a non-factor. He made some plays. I thought Lane was exceptional. The 2 best offensive tackles were in that ball game yesterday afternoon. Lane Johnson and Trent Williams. Those 2 guys were absolutely insane. I mean, I thought Lane Johnson, as banged up as he was, I thought he beat up Nick Bosa. Thought he was spectacular in the ball game. Linebackers had no way of covering George Kittle in the game. No way of covering him. 0 uncovering Kittle. I thought he was exceptional. I'm happy that the linebacker play has been shed even better since the Eagles got embarrassed. Perhaps now Howie will wake up and finally value the linebacker position. No, he won't, because you're paying other people in other positions. Isn't it funny? The 49ers have 2 of the best linebackers in the NFL. And also, they paid for a running back in McCaffrey. Those are the 2 things that killed you yesterday. And those are the areas of the football team that Howie doesn't give a shit about. By the way, your return on value for your corners, one guy's making 12 and the other guy's making 14. You basically have almost $30 million of cornerback play and they're garbage. Why won't we stick with the run game? We're going to get to all of this, I promise you. Will the Beast, I promise you. And by the way, don't ever say anything about Brock Purdy. He had a 148 quarterback number. You guys are out of your mind. And he only costs $900,000. Think of that. That's why I told you before, when you have a $900,000 quarterback, Okay? You have a $900,000 quarterback versus a $50 million quarterback, and he plays like that. That's incredible. The Eagles, for whatever reason, their run game is lost. And because they want to throw the ball so much, they've abandoned it. They've abandoned the run game. And you know why they abandoned the run game? As I told you before, the only power back you have in that organization is the quarterback. Don't you see where your run game is gone? The run game is non-existent any longer because they don't want the quarterback running any longer. Hey, let me underscore something here. Do I think that you can beat San Francisco in January? I want to see what San Francisco looks like. You know what's crazy? Some of you in here think that because you're 10-2, you're the best team in the league. No. This league changes every week because of personnel decisions. They didn't score on our corners, but they attacked our linebackers and rookie slot players. They annihilated the entire defense. That's got to be one of the worst defenses in pro football. You see, the radio stations and other people, even on my network, won't tell you that's not a championship defense. You think you're going to magically fix that against Dallas this weekend? You're high. Where are you going to get better? Your offense, get this. I'm not really all that pissed at the offense that much. I'll get to the coordinating and all that. You're not getting better against Dallas this weekend on defense? Where? You think that's a one-of when you've been giving up? Here, what'd you do? For 5 straight weeks, you've given up over 450 yards in total offense on that defense. Where are you getting better? Where? Hassan Reddick was the only guy that showed up. He was the only guy that showed up. Josh Sweat got killed. Josh Sweat, hey, you need to hold your water a little more, son. Philadelphia is now 32nd in surrendering third downs. What did I tell you had to do in that game? You had to win first down on offense. And what was the most important thing you had to do? You had to win first down on defense. And you lost both by an enormous margin. Seriously, Reddick was the only guy to put pressure. Still didn't get home. But he was the only guy putting pressure. Brandon Graham got killed. That was a complete mismatch. Brandon Graham. Holy cow. Woo! Trent Williams put a butt whooping on him. They must have ran the ball 7 straight times at him. Put a butt whipping on him. Missed tackles is a sign of fatigue. Okay? You had a ton of missed tackles. You were gore tackling, which means you're just, even Brock Purdy was bouncing off tackles. You were tired. I told you this. On Friday and all last week, you had no chance to win it because the amount of reps. When San Francisco started putting those drives together on you, and we're getting enormous chunks of yardage on you, didn't you notice the inability to put people on the ground and tackle? That's fatigue. You guys had 8 minutes of football left in you after Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo. You had 8 minutes of championship football. After that, you were on fumes. You were on fumes. The entire rest of the game, you were on fumes. Didn't realize how emotional the Niners were. Seals, you were right. The first quarter showed we can stand toe-to-toe with them. The second quarter was them showing they can respond. Once the third hit and the fatigue took over, it was over. Exactly. That's the game and how it played out. That's exactly right. That's why the race to home field is so important for Philly. It's important for San Francisco. And dude, I'm telling you, it's probably least important for Detroit because they still don't know who they are. You've got to get home field or you're not going to get to the Super Bowl. You may not even get to the NFC title game. You're on fumes. You've got to get that offense with more reps to rest that defense. Debo backed up every word that came out of his mouth. It wasn't that hard. When you have missed tackles, a football team that's played 3 games in a 10-game window or 10-day window, what did you expect? I mean, let's go by the numbers now. By the way, Angelo Cataldi will be with us at 3:30. Gary Cobb at 4:30. First downs, pretty even. But then when you look at how many yards they were gaining per first down, how many times were San Francisco in 3rd and long? Almost never. Rushing first downs. 49ers 12, Eagles 2. Look at this. You ran more plays. They ran 57 plays and beat the living shit out of you. On 50, get this. They had 57 plays and they put up 456 yards a pop on you. In theory, that's almost like 8.5 yards a play. You could not stop them. You had no chance. You ran 69 plays for 300 yards. You were annihilated. They ran the ball for 146 on you. Jalen Carter's hit the rookie wall. And Jordan has hit a starter's wall. He's hit a starter's wall. He's also asked to be doing something that he's never done. He wasn't even asked to do this at Georgia. They have massive rotation at Georgia. He's got to go out there and play all them reps. Hey, guess what, kid? Welcome to big paydays. But you got to get out there too. Those 2 D tackles are getting drilled. They're getting drilled. They went from being dominant run stoppers to sieves. You ran the ball for 46 yards? What's wrong with you? Don't ever tell me you have the best offensive line in pro football when your quarterback is getting murdered and you're only running the ball for 46 yards. Don't ever come tell me that again. And San Francisco crushed you. Don't ever tell me you have the best O-line when you run the ball for 46 yards. That's not a dominant line. 46 yards rushing. No turnovers. You're lucky. Time of possession. Pretty right down the line. 28-31 for San Fran. Eagles had 31-39. Guys, what is the theme here to all this here? What's the theme here? The Eagles are pretending to be people they're not. You're not the best team in the league. You get beat 25-22 like I thought. You get murdered by 23 in your own building. Dude, your 10-2 record is bullshit. Because it's not your offense. AJ's a great player, going to get Goddard back. Your defense is trash. That is a pathetic defense. And, people go, well, we haven't played our best ball. Yes, you have. That's one of the worst defenses in pro football. Let's get to the player performances. Sills, are you saying we're frauds? That record is. I've come to eat crow. You were right. Really didn't like the intensity we came out with, no matter if it was fatigue or not. We got bullied. Philly 500. When you guys didn't get those 14 points and you settled for 6, it was over. It was over. Okay? Over. Jalen should get more credit. Defense is terrible. Correct, Des. You're 10-2 because of Jalen Hurts and AJ. And let me say this to you. I got to apologize to Xander. Regardless of fatigue, I don't understand why the play calling. We're going to get to that too, I promise, was so bad. After the first 2 drives, our DC switches to zone with no blitzing allowed Brock to sit back there. Dude, he was hammering Purdy. I thought he rattled him. Let me say this to you. One of my very first shows, Xander Krause, who's in today, for Tone, who's got personal issues going on. We love you, Tone. And I got to say this. He goes, what do you make of the Devontae Smith draft pick? He went to the wrong team. He's not a very physical guy. He's a schwimp. Okay, let me tell you this. That guy's a tough-ass ball player. That guy catches the football in tight zones. He catches it on the sideline. Steven goes like this, regardless. I don't understand why the play calling. Okay, yeah. Steven, we appreciate it. Thank you. He's such a great ball player. And for a little dude and for a guy who's not with a big frame, man, does he play tough. Kudos to Devontae Smith, the way he plays ball. He is a tough kid. Okay? He is a tough-ass kid. I don't trust our coaches. I told you your coaches will cost you a Super Bowl. They've already cost you one. If we lose to the Cowboys, we need to clean house, including the head coach. Hang on, Steven. Let's not go psycho overreaction here on a Monday. Hang on. I'm going to get to the coaching here in a minute. Okay? Okay? Devontae Smith was outstanding. Players by the numbers. Brock Purdy. 19 of 27 after a rocky start. 314, 4 touchdowns, no picks. 148.8 quarterback rating. Almost perfect. Hurts. 26 of 45, 298. As far as I'm concerned, those were junk yards. Those 298. First 8 minutes and the last bullshit minutes of the game is where he put those numbers in there. Other than that, between those times, he was terrible. 85-2. Jalen Hurts was terrible in that game because everybody around him was terrible. Running attack, coaching, O-line, the defense. I mean, how many games do you think he's going to be able to pull a rabbit out of his hat? It ended there. It was going to end there. You didn't lose that game because of Jalen Hurts. You lost that game because of everybody around Jalen Hurts. Christian McCaffrey is a spectacular football player. 1793-1. Did DeAndre Swift play? 6 carries, 13 yards. Hurts had 7 carries for 20. An abomination of a running attack for a team that's considered one of the better running teams, and you are one of the better running teams. You just don't act like it. What happened? Where in the world did that philosophy come from, where you went last year from killing teams and your whole makeup has been running teams over to now you want to be a finesse team? You were the finesse team yesterday, and the 49ers were the hammer. It's almost like you guys changed identities. San Francisco kills teams. I mean, seriously. Debo ate you alive. 9 catches, 116-2. He was just running away from guys and bouncing off guys. Kittle, how about that block and release he had where he went for 25 down the sidelines? Do you guys communicate at all in your secondary? 4 for 68. I could go down the list of the guys who had great games. AJ, 8 for 114. Devontae, 9 for 96. And after that, nobody. Hey, by the way, I'll say it again to you. Does Jalen Hurts only see 2 dudes when he's throwing the ball? I still think that guy struggles on reading defenses. And when you don't have a running game going, it's evident. Didn't even target a tight end. I mean, they didn't even. How many times they throw the ball to Swift? I mean, do you get anybody else involved other than your two receivers? Does anybody else get involved? He threw to Quez a few times. Jesus criminy. Quez Watkins and Kenny Gainwell are not the people I want to see in a 49er game where you're trying to establish the worst guys in your huddle. When you're did you see the 49ers put the ball in the hands of any stiff on offense? It was either Kittle, Ayuk, Samuel, McCaffrey. They're not putting it in some stiff's hands. Here's the milk carton guys. DeAndre Swift missing in action. Josh Sweat missing in action. Carter and Davis missing in action. Slay and Bradbury missing in action. Nicholas Morrow doesn't belong on that field against the 49ers. That guy was terrible. Reed Blankenship missing in action. I saw somebody just say something. Okay, what now? What do you mean, what now? You got Dallas. You got Dallas. What do you mean, what now? I like how people think that you're just because it was like a game. No, this has been a month of trends and how it's been building up to this crescendo. And now you were murdered in your own building. Now you got to go to Dallas and take on a team that's won 14 straight at home. Dallas is winning that game. You're not beating Dallas. You're not beating Dallas. Here's why. Do I think the offense will be better? Probably, because you're going to get Goddard back. Do I think your defense will be better? No. No. Here's why. Brian Johnson needs to be fired. I thought Sean Desai did everything he possibly could. But then I thought those guys, they were coaching like the players were tired, and the players were playing like they were tired on that side of the ball. And he had to preserve bodies. Didn't it dawn on you with all the pressure and the energy that they came out of the gate with? As soon as that second series happened, it was over. When Desai, he knew, keep bringing the pressure. I told you had to bring pressure on him. I thought you rattled them. For some reason, they stopped bringing pressure. When they stopped bringing pressure, the 49ers got into rhythm. And when they got into rhythm and Kittle was loosening those linebackers up, they were able to run the ball. And once they were able to establish the run, that bitch was over. It was over. And it was just wearing you out. Brian Johnson, can you please help me out on something here? Help me out. Help me out on something here. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, why in the world do you pay a guy $50 million and you have first-year coordinators around him? What, because he's his buddy? That has nothing to do with being a good coordinator. Look at Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is destroying Justin Herbert. Mike McCarthy, for what all intent and purposes, Dak's not a favorite to win the MVP. I don't know. Dak looks better. Shittier teams, albeit. Brian Johnson's terrible. Either that, can the Eagles get ready for and beat Dallas? Gary, I'll get to that. Either there's too many voices in Brian Johnson's ear, or Brian Johnson sucks. Nick Sirianni, I mean, if he's responsible for the game plan, do you know why and I said this on Friday as well, do you know why you guys haven't had a complete game all year? Because you haven't had a complete game plan all year. You're not getting any better. You may get healthier on offense, but you're not going to get any better. We're going into week 14. There's a few games left. Those excuses have ran out week 5. You're not getting better. So your 10-2 record, you think you're better than San Francisco. I'm going to show you something here about the Niners and what they've done this year. Don't compare Dak and Jalen. It's not close. Dak is the reason they lost by 32. And you lost by 23. And you lost by 23. I mean, are you really going to go there? Here. Right now, I don't think we're better than San Fran. Let me throw this at you here. So let's take a look at who San Francisco is right now. They've beaten the Cowboys by 32. They've beaten the Jags by 31. They've beat the Eagles by 23. They beat the Steelers by 23. All these playoff teams, they're killing them. Now, I will say this. When healthy, I think that's the caveat to both these teams. Listen here. It's not to score Dak. Okay, Christopher, let's get over yourselves here. Here is the two teams. You're the same. This is going to come down to health. In January, who's ever healthier is going to the Super Bowl. Their defense, by the way, is superior to yours. You have nothing like their corners. Shit, man. The one safety who took over for Hufanga back there, I thought he was outstanding. Their corners can play. I thought they did a spectacular job. Jalen hasn't lost 2 in a row since October 2021. Get ready, LJ. You're getting another L. Dallas is going to hang an L on you. And it's going to be a race to home field. Then, hey, what's this? Do I think San Francisco's going to drop a game? I do. Do I think Detroit's going to drop a game? I do. Do I think Dallas is going to drop a game? I think Dallas may drop 2 games. I do. Does Shanahan finish the job starting to look good for every regular season? Can he finish the job? Correct. Get him into the postseason. Okay? Here, I'll make it emphatic for you. Keon, you're not beating Dallas. Slay and Bradbury play gutless football. I wouldn't say that. This was amplified when watching San Francisco's corners play. They actually hit people. Hey, papier-mâché Slay wants nothing to do with hitting people. Okay? Wants nothing to do with it. Hey, don't get pissed off because I said you had no chance of winning this game on Sunday. None. I never thought you were going to win that game. I just didn't think you were going to get your faces kicked in. Now, let me get to your coaches now. Whew. Cheerleader Nick, man, I'll tell you what, he's out there barking away, throwing all kinds of shit and shade at the San Francisco coaches and all that other bullshit he does. This guy is a cheerleader, man. I can't wait to get Angelo on. He's a cheerleader. All he does sets a culture. Culture's in the building by the players, not him. He came and became part of that culture. My opinion, I look at Nick Sirianni. Do I think Nick Sirianni's the reason that you won't win a Super Bowl? He was the reason in February, 10 months ago, you didn't win a Super Bowl. Yeah. Your coaching staff will be the number one reason why you don't win a Super Bowl. Okay? You don't have very good coaches, except for Jeff Stoutland. I think the size, let me back up. I don't think the size horrible. I don't think he's horrible. Yes, Angelo Cataldi, WIP. The guy who right here, his great book, sent me a fabulous copy. Okay? Love what he wrote in here. Big Sales, one of the best sports talk hosts in America. Thanks for letting me promote this book on your absolutely awesome show. Angelo Cataldi. Yes, sir. Looking forward to having Angie on. Yeah, that Angelo. Okay? Say it one more time to you here. This is going to come down to health. Okay? This is going to come down to health. Who the healthiest guy is. And I'm talking Niners and Eagles. Okay? Remember that. Remember I said that to you. The 49ers go on a 3-game losing streak, right? Okay? They went on a 3-game losing streak. Why? Well, health. The healthiest team will win the NFC. And why did you guys win the NFC last year? Because you were healthy. You started all 22 guys you started in September with in 22. So, do I think San Francisco is better than you? Well, here, I'll give you this. And I'm not going to change on this one either. Is San Francisco better than, are they better than the Eagles? What's today's date? The 4th? On December 4th, yes. Could that change Monday? Yeah. Okay, get this. Hey, Xander, is that a fact that they shine Shaq Leonard? Okay, done deal. Let me put this out here. Linebacker. Pretty smart move by the agent, too. So the Eagles now, here is the 4th spare part on your defense. Zach Cunningham, Christian Ellis was a free agent. Nicholas Morrow. You made a trade for Kevin Byard, and now you have Shaq Leonard. Do you ever draft anybody off the lines that are good? I mean, honestly, do you guys ever draft a linebacker or a corner or a safety in the last 10 years that's been good? I mean, you have to go make moves like this because Howie's inability to draft. Do you understand? His inability to draft and his inability to player develop is the reason you're in this shit. Shaq Leonard's not a savior. You need to sign him. Christian Ellis is terrible. When's the last time you guys drafted a linebacker that was worth the shit? Tell me. Did you just cut a 3rd rounder this offseason? Didn't you cut a guy that he drafted in the 3rd round? When has he ever drafted? Maddox, okay. Corners, never. Linebackers, never. Edge rushers, not really. Every guy on your defense was somebody else's. That's not awful. To recognize your mistakes. TJ Edwards, you didn't draft him. You found him. 10-2 means shit after that ass beating, don't you think, Arthur? Look at Arthur throwing the 10-2. How embarrassing you should feel. So a 9-3 team kicked the living tar out of you, and you're throwing 10-2 out after that annihilation? I couldn't wait for someone to be an asshole and throw that 10-2 out. 10-2 meant nothing to the Niners. They jammed it down your throat. Kevin Byard was terrible in that game. I mean, Keon goes, you're going to have the best record. Not after next week, you won't. Not after next week. Do you really believe? Hey, here's my take on Shaq Leonard. And because he had a great conversation, and I told you last week because he played for Frank Wright. And Sirianni was in the building. And the relationship helped a lot. If both Eagles and Niners are healthy, who wins? I just don't think you have a good enough defense to stop them. I really don't. Going to post his 10 minutes on Shaq Leonard. Here's what I say about Leonard. Leonard his agent wanted to wait and see what happened after Seattle on Thursday night and also what happened on Sunday, 49ers and Eagles. It's a brilliant move because you're going to get the most desperate. And after the way the Eagles performed, especially at linebacker, there's no question the Eagles, in my opinion, paid more money because they're the more desperate team at that position than what Dallas was. It's a brilliantly played move by Shaq Leonard. Now, here's the key. Here's the difference between him and Robert Quinn. Okay? Robert Quinn was running out of gas. Shaq Leonard is not out of gas. His issues have been injury related. This guy's an all-pro player. And Nick has a relationship with him. Frank had a relationship with him. All of those guys. And Shaq Leonard had a conversation with Frank Reich last week. And I told you that because I talked to Frank. What's it like playing in Philly? You're going to love it. It's player friendly. You can go there and raise your value. Okay? If Howie signs you, he wants you, which means he could want you next year if you come in and become an impact player. You got to remember something about the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is the one thing you always have to remember compared to Dallas. When you go to Dallas, your value, it flops. When you go to Philadelphia, it raises. And here's the examples. Kaiser White, $1.5 million last year with the Eagles. Signed a $7 million per year deal in Arizona. TJ Edwards was making $1.4 million last year as a starting linebacker for a football team that finished number 2 in defense, had 159 tackles. He's now the NFL's leading tackler, making $7.5 million per year. Miles Sanders probably signed one of the best contracts for a running back, making $7 million per. Value increased. Go down the list. Look at Epps with the Raiders. Hell, look at even Andre Dillard, who lost his job. Look at Isaac Seumalo. Every single guy that was a free agent either was re-signed in Philly or your market value increased. Let's say this to you about Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham, for instance. Those guys were waived by teams. Even the Eagles cut Nicholas Morrow. However, those guys probably gave themselves another 2 years in the league because they've been some type of impact. Hey, where would you be without Nicholas Morrow? And he's not very good. Zach Cunningham was not awful. Was not awful. So when you come to Philly, look, think about this, for instance, too. Look at even A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown had pedestrian numbers in Tennessee. 63 catches, 1,100 yards, 900 yards, stuff like that. He comes to Philadelphia. He's a 90-catch guy, a 1,500-yard guy, and now this guy's considered one of the top 2 wide receivers in the league. You think his value's high right now? You think he's a $20 million guy? I don't know. He may be underpaid now in today's market. Absolutely, Shaq Leonard's playing. You have no choice. Here's the problem you have, though, in communication. Look at the problem that Nakobe Dean's decision. Get this. I'm not really ripping Nakobe here. I'm ripping Howie. Howie Roseman is in a position heading into week 14 that he created. You relied on a guy who played less than 40 snaps last year. You put the green dot on him thinking that he was going to be able to not only, I don't even know, and I've said this before to you, I don't even know if the kid's good or not. I just know he can't stay healthy. And that was something that came out of Georgia when he was drafted. Would Frank Reich as an advisor make a difference? Yes. Jalen Hurts respects Frank. Why? Why does Jalen Hurts respect Frank Reich? Why do you think? You guys know? I've said it to some of you on here. Why would Frank Reich be a good advisor to the head coach right now? And why would he be good for Jalen Hurts? Why do you think Frank Reich, if you brought him in, Rivers. Diego, exactly. Rivers. Philip Rivers is the person that he studies the most. And Frank was the offensive coordinator in San Diego. And the wide receiver coach was, of course, Nick Sirianni. And you want to know how a guy goes through progressions? Shit, man. I'd like to bring Philip Rivers in as a consultant for Jalen Hurts. He watches more film. From what Frank tells me, that's all he does is watch Philip Rivers film. He just sits there and watch Philip Rivers all the time. Okay? Keon goes, Rivers never won anything. Neither has Jalen Hurts. 10-2? What's it mean? You got annihilated. Your 10-2 record means nothing in a race like this now. And by the way, here's something that I'm not really all that pissed except for the bullshit running game. For whatever reason you're not doing. You got a trash defense. LJ's crowing about being 10-2 after he gets taken apart by a team in his own building. And the only guy that wanted to hit anybody on defense was the Big Dom. Yeah, you won't be in first place after next week. Not happening. Not happening. Okay? Not happening. You play defense like that, you'll lose to Seattle. I mean, you're are you ever going to run the ball again? I'm open to bringing in whoever can help at this point. Niners demolished us. We need to regroup, bring in Reich. Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say to you. How do you go into Dallas after this? You've got to have selective memory on this one. You got to just, I think you watch everything you didn't do on defense. What was the biggest and most glaring thing that you took away from that game on Sunday? What was the biggest takeaway? What was the biggest takeaway? Let's do defense first. What was the biggest takeaway on defense? Look, are you going to run into a team that has those kind of weapons in the NFL? If I'm not mistaken, doesn't Seattle have two receivers from a year ago that had 1,000 yards apiece themselves? Don't they have two wideouts? They actually have more talent than Buffalo and Kansas City. They're probably going to be the second most talented offense that you're going to face in this next run. I don't even think Dallas has a number two like Seattle does. Is that fair? Don't you think Seattle has two better wide receivers? You know, it's funny. 11 goes, Seattle sucks. Your defense blows. You're making yourself seem better after ass destruction. Now, let's be fair here. San Francisco, you just don't have the people to cover them. I mean, once they figured it out that they attacked the linebackers, once they figured it out, it was over. I would make this point to you. One more thing about Shaq Leonard too. He's a veteran. Will he get up to speed in time for the Cowboy game? Let's see. Monday. Okay, because they're playing Sunday. They had a late Sunday, so he's probably in the building looking at film, getting his playbook, taking his physical. I think he took a physical last week, if I'm not mistaken. He's already probably in preparation. Tuesday's Players' Day off. He'll probably do some more work, come into the building. Frank Reich was Eagles Super Bowl offensive coordinator, correct? Wednesday, they'll get the game plan for Dallas. Hey, did Indianapolis play Dallas this year or last year? It'll be different because this year they've got Mike McCarthy as the coordinator. So I don't know if Leonard's gone against a Mike McCarthy offense. He may have gone against Mike McCarthy when McCarthy was up in Green Bay. Seattle would be Dallas only if they use DK Metcalf. He was killing Deron Bland for a moment. I thought that was A.J. Brown on Seattle. He was murdering Bland. Bland got exposed, I thought, in that game. Thank you, Carson. Okay? Well, Frank, Seattle's not a joke because they have the weapons to beat the Eagles. See, do you want to know how to fix your defense? How do you think you fix your defense against the Cowboys? How do you fix your defense? You guys know how to fix your defense? New coordinator? No. Ray Lewis? That would help. Blitz and play man? No. Run the ball. There you go, Eagle. Run the ball. Run the ball. Be more patient. Brian Johnson is not a patient coordinator or whomever is calling plays. Still, so you worried about Jalen Carter's immaturity? No, not on a team like the Eagles. They'll keep that shit in bay. I saw Nick talking to him. I thought that was a good moment. Less 3-and-outs would help. That's exactly right. Keon, the only way you can help the Eagle defense right now is keep them off the damn field. You've got to keep that offense more in sustained drives. Don't you see? Get this. Don't you see that's what San Francisco did to you? They ran 57 plays. They ran 57 plays. You ran 69, and they almost had 500 yards in offense on you. How much of a difference will Shaq Leonard make? Gary, he's a body. He's experienced. If healthy, he could make a ton. Now, my question, hey, by the way, there's no coincidence that your run game is starting to fail. Why? Because your linebacker play is failing. Did you ever put those two together too? The whole middle of your defense is falling apart. It's falling apart. Jordan Davis has never played this amount of reps in his entire career. And now we're getting past the 13-game mark. How many games do they play in college football nowadays with the playoff? 14? We're coming up to the game here. But here's the difference. When you play 14 games in college, you got a month and a half off in between the SEC title game and the national championship game. You have a month and a half off. You're week after week here. Trust me, it's a thing, man. It's a thing. My rookie year, back then we were only playing 12 games. You got to week 13 and 14, you couldn't believe how beat up your body was then. You could not believe how beat up you were. You just couldn't believe it. And you were trying to do everything to keep yourself as healthy as possible. Okay? Hey, I appreciate it, guys. We're having a little issue here with the net here. It's going to come back here in a second. So we appreciate everybody in here with us. But hey, guys, end of the day here. You know, this is all going to come down to health. I'm going to say it again to you. It's going to come down to health on who's the healthier team in January. This Dallas game frightens me, though. You need this Dallas game more than you needed actually San Francisco, because you still have the division. If you lose the game, then this is going to come down to teams that may slip up. You're a beat-up football team right now. You're a beat-up football team. May I throw something out at you before we take a time out here? What in the world ever happened to Nolan Smith? Is he on the roster? Where's Nolan Smith? Is he where does he play special teams? Is he a factor at all on your roster? I mean, where is he? You need pass rushers right now. Where is the kid? He was out there, Sills? Was he really? I didn't see him. He played? This guy's the 31st pick in the draft. Where was he? Jesus Christ. If you're a first-round guy, Jalen Carter, I see him. I see that guy. Angelo Cataldi's going to join us at 3:30. Guys, don't forget, the month of December, we're so looking forward to our friends at Hooters. By the way, we got some great news for you. How'd you guys like to come and see Big Sills this weekend? Saturday, King of Prussia. Looks like we're going to be there. And we're going to have an appearance out there. And I'm going to go see my great friends, Gary and the folks there, and Phil, the owners of the King of Prussia. By the way, they have Northeast Hooters from Rhode Island all the way down through King of Prussia, New Jersey as well. You can go to northeasthooters.com to find a location nearest you. The Hooters bonus bucks are back. You know, these Santa bucks are back, man. They've had these for such a long period of time. $5 gift cards you can get for a stocking stuffer. Those Hooter gifts, put them right there in the stocking, man. Really great. The calendars are out. There's $100 in gift certificates that are in each and every single one of the calendars. I think 9 of the girls are also featured from the Rhode Island all the way down to Jersey through King of Prussia. I think 9 of the girls are also been featured in the 2024 Hooters calendar. If you don't want to go into the place, go hooters2go.com. Take the food, bring it back to your domicile, your casa, your casa, and eat the food there. Watch Monday Night Football tonight. Great lunch specials. I love Military Mondays, 20% off to our great men and women who have served this country. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. We'll give you more details on that, too, for this weekend. Saturday, Big Sales is going to be in King of Prussia. NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. What's next? It's the Cowboys. How much what we saw exposed the Eagles on Sunday? I want to hit on that. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.